Welcome to ConnectionPoint, a conversation series from the Link Group, where we go beyond the work to explore the passions, experiences, and curiosity that shape deeper partnerships and stronger insights. Hi everyone, welcome to ConnectionPoint. My name is Nicole Johnson, and today I'm here with Jeff Whiteside, Senior Vice President here at the Link Group. Jeff and I have had the pleasure to work together on quite a few projects, some that have been fairly long work streams, multiple projects, different rounds of research, and one thing that Jeff is great at is developing relationships with teams and building skills and building that collaborative environment within projects, which I love. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. But first, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Jeff Whiteside?
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Whiteside. I've been here now for almost 16 years at the Link Group, which is hard to believe. So, fun fact about me here at the company is that, as you know, I've met my wife here at the Link Group, and now we've been married for 11 years. So,
I guess, how did you initially get in or find the Link Group? Like, what sparked your interest in market research initially?
Yeah, so in college I studied in the business school at UNC, and honestly, I was going down the consulting track, and then all of a sudden, as I was exploring more about the depths of what consulting could be, what it is, what it's not, I came across market research, and the Link Group had a job posting, and I was like, well, that sounds interesting. And so I applied for the role, and I quickly learned what market research was in preparation for the interview, because I did not have much understanding about what market research was.
Sure.
But obviously, 16 years later, here I am, still at the Link Group, still in market research, because I just love the industry.
So tell us exactly what you do, but without using the word research or researcher.
Got it. I think what comes to mind is, I like to think of it, I went to a conference a few years ago, and one thing that really stood out to me is when someone talked about market research, it's being a dot collector and a dot connector. So you are collecting all these different data points, whether it's through conversations, whether it's through survey results, whatever way it's coming in. Which is great, but really, in order to take it to the next level, you have to be able to then connect those dots. So how are you going to put all those dots together, tell the story, bring it basically to help answer the questions that our clients are asking us to answer. So very much in the dot realm, dot connecting and collecting.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea. What about internally? What is your role here at the Link Group internally?
I lead up our conferencing initiative, so helping us get involved in the industry, from which conferences we're going to building a booth to exhibit, figuring out what to present at different conferences. So that's a big element to my role here in the realm.
Awesome. Love that. Yeah, Jeff has been a great mentor for me when it comes to that development and developing relationships with clients piece and conferencing. It's been good to see all of that play out. So outside of the Link Group and market research, how do you spend your time? What are your hobbies and interests?
Yeah, so free time is limited right now with 3 little ones under 10 years old right now. But when I do get some free time, a passion for me that's been going back for many years now is in the realm of barbecue. And so I like to read, learn, cook, and consume barbecue. So all things barbecue I like to do is in my free time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want you to tell us a little bit about what it's like to cook barbecue, because I can imagine it's not as easy as just like putting a piece of meat on a grill or a smoker. Like, give us a little 30-second how-to tutorial.
Yeah, it's a lot of time and patience, I would say. Okay. It's just in... over the years, it's just taken a lot of just learning as I go, and just learning from where I've misstepped previously and thinking about what went wrong and how to fix that. And so it's a lot of just controlling variables that are different at every cook. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always different every single cook. And so it's just being able to go with the flow and flexible and just really kind of adapt to what that day has given me in terms of that cook. So like you said, it's not just putting something on the cooker and letting it go. Sometimes I wish it was that way. Sure. And also, to be honest, there's a lot of sleepless nights just sitting outside. Okay. But it's becoming one with nature in a way where the stars are out, the moon, and just having just almost like a therapeutic sitting by a fire and letting the cook go.
Never imagined it could be that peaceful.
Yeah.
You mentioned there's a lot of variables. What are some of those variables that you have to control?
Yeah, so I primarily cook with wood. So a big variable is just the type of wood, and whether it's really seasoned, whether it's new wood. In that regard, it might burn faster, it might burn longer, it might not want to burn, and so that's a big variable. The temperature outside, whether it's hot outside, whether it's cold outside. You can imagine it just takes a little bit more effort to keep a smoker hot if it's freezing cold outside. And also just every piece of meat's different. Whether when it's done, it can be 10 hours, it can be 15 hours, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens to be that piece of meat's just being stubborn for that day.
Okay. How exactly did you get involved with barbecue initially?
Yeah, I mean, being from North Carolina, like a lot of it's just in my blood, I would say. Just, kind of growing up, just barbecue is always central to different get-togethers, to, when we'd have end of the year celebrations, it was always around barbecue. And so that was always a big part of it for me. And there was a barbecue restaurant down the street from my parents' house, and growing up, that's one place we would always go to, like on a weekly basis if we want to have a dinner out. And then when I was like 15, 16, my parents were like, probably time to get a job. And then, so I went to that barbecue restaurant, and I was like, oh, man, I can get a job here. And long story short, I then started working there when I was 16, and I worked there through college. So I was there 6 years, from host to to expo, to waiting tables, but the big part was catering, just getting to like do the catering aspect, which is what I loved being there. So I was like really kind of then when I got into cooking barbecue, I like graduated college, and I was like, it'd be cool to start like cooking. I've always loved cooking. Food's a big part of like me growing up with my family. I always had like family meals, and I just wanted to kind of reproduce what I was bringing to people's tables, and that's what then that started it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I can definitely attest, being from North Carolina as well. It is in our blood. It is definitely in our blood. Yeah, you're the master in this conversation, so we'll refer to you as the barbecue pit master for today. But what skills does a barbecue pit master need?
Yeah, so I mentioned patience earlier on. That's one that is huge. Just being able to want to spend 10, 12 hours on something, you got to be patient, and that's what. Over time, there's been times where I've spent all this time, and it comes to the last hour, and I'm like, it'll be fine. I'm just going to take it off now. But then that's where just things go awry. Where it's like, you got to push through and want to be able to spend that time, that diligence. The flexibility, again, just being able to just know that every cook's not going to be the same. It's going to be different. It's going to change. And so just going with those flows and figuring out like how to just course correct along the way is a big part. And then just continuously learning, just wanting to. I know that my barbecue is never going to be the best that it's ever going to be. It's always going to be better than the next cook. And then really what I do, I document after every cook, just this is how it went. Here's some of the different variables. Here's how I can get better next time. And so it's just that way of just accepting that you're always going to try to get better and going along the way.
Working to perfect that flavor. I get it. Totally get it. And you mentioned like serving other people and how you enjoy cooking and giving to others. What is like, I guess with that, what is the most fulfilling part of this passion or hobby for barbecue?
Yeah, I think just inherently, like if you think about barbecue, it's always like a large cut of meat that you're cooking for a long time and getting to become tender and ready to go. And inherently, if you have a big piece of meat, you get a big group of people. Mm-hmm. And so I love just barbecue like forces you to spend time with, get the people together and bring everyone together and just have that sense of community, and being able to have that with people is great. It's always that excuse to get people together.
I know you do a fundraiser that you annually, I think at this point, that is evolved around barbecue. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's evolved in terms of what the proceeds go to every year, but right now it's with our elementary school for the Cecilia Rollins Fund, which is a fund that helps support lower income families at our school, provides food security, housing assistance, and any other kind of emergency funds that they need. And so it's a fund I've been involved with since starting at our elementary school. And so every springtime we do a fundraiser where we sell barbecue. We have a couple sides donated from local restaurants. We put together like little packs of barbecue, and we sell them to the families at Wiley Elementary, which is our elementary school. And it's just a good way to bring people together. And that's another example where we have this big party at the end where after school everyone comes, picks up their barbecue. They have all the kids on the playground. It's just great just seeing all the kids screaming, yelling, having fun.
I know I've gotten a pack of the barbecue meal before. It was delicious, and I love that it goes to a great cause. And so are you more of dry rub or sauce? This question means a lot to me because I'm a big condiment sauce person.
Yeah,
so.
I'm more of a dry. So for ribs, I'm dry rub.
Okay.
And then for when it comes pork, more sauce. Brisket, hopefully don't need sauce. That's the goal.
Okay, good to know.
But I do love tinkering with different rubs.
What are your go-to barbecue side dishes?
I'm a big potato salad guy.
Okay.
That's the restaurant I worked at. I love their potato salad, and so I actually like try to emulate my potato salad after them.
What's the best barbecue you've ever had? Is it yours or someone else's?
Oh, definitely someone else.
Okay.
Like for me, after spending 12 hours with something, I don't even want to eat it. Like I'm just like I'm done with it. Like I'll eat it the next day.
Yeah.
But best barbecue, I think it's probably like my favorite's like the pork from again the eastern part of the state and at Skylight Inn. So it's like a mainstay. It's a historic place in North Carolina.
So I want to do a few lightning round questions about barbecue. So what is your favorite type of meat to cook?
I'd have to say pulled pork. Just again, kind of North Carolina's pork state here, so a lot of pulled pork is my go-to.
Okay, what's the favorite style of barbecue?
That's a very difficult question. There's no
Maybe to eat and to cook. Maybe those are different.
Yeah. So for me, to cook is brisket, beef brisket, which is very Texas oriented. So I'm going outside North Carolina here,
Okay.
but it's very challenging. It's very finicky, and so that's where like just part of me enjoys that challenge of wanting to master this cut that is so difficult to do so. And then to consume, I'm really like no rules there. It's funny because growing up in North Carolina, it's very like vinegar style. Like,
Yes,
so like
of course.
very that. But then like south of us in South Carolina is mustard based, which like people in North Carolina are like, how can you like mustard based like barbecue? But like growing up, my grandmother's from South Carolina. My dad grew up in South Carolina, and so like going to their house, it was always mustard based barbecue, and so like that taste immediately brings you back to our table. And then like Eastern North Carolina barbecue is like, it's just that vinegar is just so nostalgic. Like there's restaurants in the eastern part of the state growing up, oh, I'm getting emotional, is like where I'd always have conversations with my grandpa. And like we would go down and have like phone calls with him out there. And it's like driving by some of these restaurants, I can't even like drive by without thinking about my grandfather.
Sure.
Did not expect to get emotional. But I think that's just like where like it's just such a, I don't know, for me it's like food is so much more than just like the food or sustenance. It's like the emotional connection, the camaraderie, the community.
Do you have a particular cook or like maybe event that you were cooking for that you're like particularly proud of?
I think, when it comes to just all the fundraiser cooks that I do, I think just being able to like cook that much capacity, I think it's always like it's a huge undertaking. It's a huge challenge. And then like by the time it's all done and cooked and pulled and ready to go, it's just very satisfying just from just knowing that like that what kind of the output of that is doing, helping raise money for these families. So that's like just like that is like very, but then also thinking about like the first brisket where like I cooked it. My dad's probably one of the most like critical person when it comes to like eating. Like usually I'll be like, you think it goes okay? I was like, okay. And then but then actually cooking the brisket where he was like, that was good. And I was like, okay, I got that.
Dad's stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Yes. Any, I guess, time in your, as you've been learning to do barbecue, you said over time it takes, as you're building skills, a time in your journey where things maybe didn't go as planned, maybe the meat didn't cook right, or you didn't get the flavors you were looking for, or just like you feel like things might not have worked out?
Yeah. I actually, for one of our oldest daughter's birthday, I had this grand idea. I was like, you know what? I want to build a smoker out of cinder blocks, and I'm going to cook. I've never cooked with fire before. I'd always done like different things. This is like my first time cooking with fire. So why not just cook with cinder blocks the most rudimentary way with like 50 people coming over? It was the worst idea I've had. I mean, it was like sitting there, I was like trying to like burn the coals down and like shovel them into the smoker. And about like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, no, like this is not working. Nothing is cooking. It's not holding heat. So I had to like basically scrap that idea. I had to like throw some stuff into the oven, and I was like asking neighbors, can I use your oven? And it was just I was like, I'm abandoning that. That was just a very like humbling experience where it's like, I wasn't fully prepared to go into that as what I needed to have.
Sure. What did you end up learning from that, looking at on the other side?
Yeah, preparation.
Okay.
And I think like I thought I read enough about it. I thought I had the idea, but just when I got into it, I was like, so then like what I ended up doing the next time I did, ended up just changing how I was heating up the smoker. I brought in the fire inside of it, and so it just made for a much more like easier experience the second time around. But that first time was very humbling.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Well, I want to shift gears a little bit here. You mentioned that every cook is different and includes like a lot of different variables that impact how the meat cooks. I guess how do you see that same like variability and flexibility show up when we're looking at a market research project?
Oh, gosh, yeah, there's a lot of connections there. Just thinking about it, one reason why I love this work is because every project is truly different, and every day is truly different in terms of what we're doing, what we're handling, and so just that variability and like, I was talking about like different wood, different meat, different cook. It's exactly the same here in terms of as we think about market research, where every objective is different for the research. Every client team is different in terms of what they're looking for, what they want to hear, what they want to see. But even like in the qual realm, like every individual research interview or focus group is going to be different. And so just having that wherewithal to just know that like it's going to be different, it's okay, and just embrace it and just go with the flow. And sometimes it takes some adapting to different styles or preferences who you're working with, and so yeah, I love that. And then I think the old adage is like, with barbecue is low and slow, and sometimes the insights take some low and slow heat to come out and figure out what they are, and so that's where I love this, like the end product is the analysis and the reporting. Here's the answers to the challenges that you're facing, and being able to like spend that time with the insights, baby them, care for them, and bring out a report that you feel really proud about, and then also that you want to present and share is just a huge component too.
You mentioned earlier that sometimes you have to work with like stubborn or tough meat to make it a little more digestible, and I feel like that's similar maybe to research. How do you work through what might be, I guess, tough or messy data to make sure like the recommendations or insights that we're giving our clients are digestible and like workable?
Earlier in my career, I used to like try to answer that like before I even like brought the report to the client team. But now I'm more inclined to bring them along for the ride, where it's like, hey, like something doesn't seem like it's making sense, or like let's brainstorm here, and just having that kind of relationship with the client team, be able to have those conversations, because sometimes what might not be making sense to us, they have the background information about something else where it's like, no, that actually does make sense, or that's interesting because we heard also here. And I think that's such a like important part to our kind of having that relationship with a client team, where you're able to say like, hey, not necessarily we need help, but let's talk about this and figure out what's making sense.
You mentioned earlier that there's different styles, approaches, and like flavors of barbecue, and no two projects are the same. And I feel like that's probably the same with two cooks, and two cooks are the same. What have you learned about the different perspectives and approaches in market research throughout your career?
Yeah, thinking about internally, there's no project team that's the exact same. So like, we work together, we have, our style, what works for us, and I might be working with another study that might be a completely different style. And so it's just learning about the person that you're working with, being upfront about your preferences, how you like to work, and then make sure that you then have just an optimal project team to make it work well. And then thinking outside of it, just like from every client team is different. Like there's, as much as you like to think that everyone's in market research, we know what's going on, this is how it goes. It's like everything's going to be a little bit different in terms of preferences, in terms of what they want to hear, the frequency of hearing things, to just types of conversations, and just being able to cater to the team, making sure that they feel confident. Not just the results, but like the approach and how we're just going through the process, and just building that relationship is just so paramount.
I guess you mentioned being, working at the barbecue restaurant ever since like you were a teenager, and I imagine there's some customer service elements of that. Through your barbecue journey, what have you learned about customer service aspects that you feel like translates to working with different people in market research?
Yeah, I mean, just from like a customer service aspect, I mean, that's just the underlying, like, you work in restaurant for tips, and so it's like being as attentive and as planning ahead for the different customers, where you need more sweet tea, I can bring you some more sweet tea, or you start to see they need more napkins, and making sure that you're trying to stay ahead of what they need as as someone that's just dining, and just trying to predict what people need like 2 steps in advance. Like we know that question's going to be coming from the client team. It's like, let's go ahead and try to like offset that now, or address that now, So they're not asking us, hey, do you have this or have that? Like the fewer questions they're having, the better experience it's going to be.
So if a successful market research project was like a secret rub, what are the 3 spices that must be in there for our results to be actionable, for our insights to actually be meaningful to clients?
So I think if we're limited to 3 for a rub,
Okay.
gotta have salt and pepper. Those are the first
yes,
2.
of course.
Which I don't know how much you follow like pop culture and barbecue, but the big controversy is like people always say we only use salt and pepper. But then lo and behold, there's also some Lowry seasoned salt that comes into the equation. So like it's technically only salt and pepper, but there's a lot more in that.
I see.
Lowry salt. But let's go with those 3
Okay.
for now. Just think like from salt, like you know, salt makes the flavor good, makes things taste good. And so in order to have a successful research project, it's all about how you deliver the results. Like no matter how good the insights are that you uncover, you might have these really golden nuggets from the research. But if you don't communicate them well, or you don't have the right deliverable, the right way to the team, they're not going to go anywhere. And it's like, then your insights are just sitting on the proverbial shelf, right? And then you're like, well, that stinks because we got some really good stuff here, but if they can't deliver, then like, what's the use? So that's salt. Pepper has a little bit of spice to it. So sometimes, you know, I think where research can, sometimes you just go to like, it has to be a certain way, but it doesn't. It can make it spicy as you need to. And so whether that is thinking about it from a different angle where, you know, we have our core customer, but have you thought about other ancillary people who might be involved? Let's talk to them to get their perspective, because that gives the full picture. Nowadays, I've been doing a lot of work with both, you know, in the medical space, like doing physicians and patients or caregivers, and just hearing what physicians have to say and what patients have to say can be drastically different. And that's spicy, because then you're like sitting there, you know, as a moderator, you're trying to be very, you know, like even keel, you don't be emotional with their participants. But when you're hearing a physician say one thing and you know what reality is for the patient, you're kind of like, no. So I think that's like where just being able to like add that spice to the research and making sure that we're thinking about it in all different angles. And then for the Lowrys, you know, a little bit of pizzazz, I would say.
Pizzazz.
But also like thinking about like, you know, in the example I was using, like it's sometimes hidden, it's kind of tucked away. I think, you know, at the Link Group, we try to think about like, what is that plan B, plan C, plan D? It just looks smooth, simple on the outside. You know, it just looks like salt and pepper, but underneath there's a lot more going on. But we try to, you know, make sure that they're just tasting good barbecue or good research, but knowing that there's a lot more that we're putting into it.
I guess what would happen to the flavor if we feel like one of these seasonings was missing?
It wouldn't taste good, right?
Okay.
No, you use the word actionable, and that's where I think also just not great research is just replaying back, here's what we heard. And in the day and age of AI and thinking about like everything can be digitized, automated, it's like at the end of the day, as researchers, we bring the human element into it to then connect, going back to the dot connecting, connect the dots for our clients. So this is why these insights matter to you and to your strategy and to your brand. And so if we start to miss out on any of these different spices, then research just becomes just like food that no one wants to eat, and that's not great for us.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about how AI and a lot of these things that we're implementing into the industry are just tools, but like a tool in barbecue, you're not going to do much. There's not a person behind it making things, turning the knobs, pushing things, making things work.
Exactly.
So, totally get it.
And there's a lot of similarities too, because in barbecue, there's been a ton of like technological advancements where you now have smokers you can plug in, you can control with an app on your phone, you can like start fires from your phone from away, which I have some safety reasons for that.
Sure.
But there's all these advancements, which are great. You know, they help. And like I use a thermometer up. It stays in the meat. It helps me track how things are going. But at the end of the day, there is the human element to know what do you tweak, what do you change, what do you adjust. And so I think there's a world where you have both in synergy working together.
I feel like you've kind of hinted this throughout our conversation, but that, you know, barbecue requires some trial and error, learning what works best over time and continuously improving, getting better. How have you seen that role of like getting feedback, making changes in your role as a researcher?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we always say feedback is a gift, and just hearing how we can be better as a project team, like thinking about like how could we have made that project better? You know, what could have made our deliverable better? Where could we have smoothed out any bumps on the way is great. But then also as an individual researcher, you know, how could we have made our experience better? Like how could I have been a better project lead, or how could I have handled those conversations differently with the respondents? And so just always kind of, I think feedback is one thing that you just have to know that you can always get better. Just like the barbecue can always get better. There is no critical like apex of the like barbecue. It can always be better. And I think that's one thing I always strive for. Is just thinking about like ways that can be better. And I think that's where, you know, there's one book that like I always like look at is called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's like the word unreasonable is such a like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I am unreasonable. Like I think about like in delivering results to clients, and like my wife, who, you know, again works here at the Link Group, sometimes like she'll see me like I'm like stressed about something, or I'm like working at something really hard, and she's like, you know, it doesn't have to be like absolutely perfect. I'm like, it does. It does. And it's not from just like the deliverable itself, but it's like just knowing like for the sake of the relationship and doing what's best for the brand. Like I strive for that, and it's like if there's ways that I can be even more unreasonable, bring it on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is a common personality trait in a linker for sure. I feel like we always say learning and growing, and I feel like we're surrounded by people that are super ambitious and want to just level up what we can give to our clients. So I totally understand. Do you have any experiences teaching others any barbecue technique, and how does this maybe similar or different to mentoring and training junior linkers?
Short answer is yes. So I think a lot of people like send me like an unassuming text like, hey, I'm gonna cook this, you have any tips? I'm like, hang on one second.
Yeah, it's like, hold on.
And then they receive like a 4-page email from me. But you know, at the start of it though, before I even send any tip, I'm like, well, what are you cooking on? What are you cooking? When? Where? And it's all about the context that you need in order to then provide any sort of like tips and assistance and help. And so I think that's where like just knowing the individual, their background, who they are, and then knowing then how to help them. And so I'm not giving just like irrelevant information to them. Like if they're cooking with charcoal, like they don't need to know about fire and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's a big component. And you know, recently, actually, you know, speaking of my dad again, we got him a smoker for his retirement gift this year, and that's been a lot of fun because it's probably had more phone calls and text messages from him than I've had, you know, in the past several years, and it's been fun just as a way to stay connected with him and just to have, you know, we haven't cooked together yet, but that's coming soon. But I think that's where, you know, just hearing like every linker is different in their experience here at the Link Group, and like knowing their background, like have they done this type of study? Maybe they've done it a bunch, or maybe this is their first one in this particular study topic. And so knowing that to then be able to then provide the feedback of like, hey, here's what this study is going to be like, or maybe since you've done it so many times, here's a way that you can continue to push the envelope and grow. But you need to have some at least, you know, experience in order to do those growth opportunities. So it's all about the individual, and I'm personally I love teaching, I love mentoring, and so the more opportunities, the better.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, now that you might be getting messages from me not only about work but also about barbecue. So, what type of flavor profile do you hope to curate with your work here and your impact with the Link Group?
One that is just full of love. Like I think, you know, any research project that I do, I want people to know that like we have spent time, blood, sweat, tears, and they can feel that. Where it's not just we're going through the motions, getting them some answers, and like you're like, all right, we're done, thank goodness. But we truly care. We care about the research that we're delivering, the quality of the research.
I think we talked a lot about the personal aspect of what we do, and you can see that with the community that you build with barbecue as well. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Jeff. It's been really great hearing about your passion and how that carries over into work. Thank you all for listening to Connection Point, a conversation series from the Link Group. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Our information will be in the show notes.